All right. I am super excited to have with me here today Radu Abarak, who is a good friend of mine, who's actually doing seven figures on Amazon and recently left his job. And the cool thing is, Radu and I met a little over a year ago, and I've watched him literally, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Radu, about 10x his business, left his job and basically has achieved the dream that so many people that get started in this business are looking for. So, Radu, I'm so excited that you're here today.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if we ever feel like we achieve where we strive for, but it's a constant growth, and yeah, I mean it's exciting, scary, but it's an awesome journey. So I'm happy to share my story. Hopefully, inspire somebody that may be kind of in my shoes where I was, 12 months ago, 24 months ago.
Cool.
And yeah, just and yeah, pleasure to
Awesome.
be on. And yeah, it's been an interesting 12 months or 14 months since we first met
Yeah.
at that meetup.
Yeah. So, just to give everybody a little bit of background here. So, you and I met it was Funnel Hacking Live. It was in Orlando in, what was that, March of 2018. And
Either March or February. Yeah.
yeah. So, it was right around that kind of early of the year, not quite spring time. And you had come to Scott Volker of the Amazing Seller podcast. He had a meetup for people that listen to his show. I've gotten to know him pretty well now. You've gotten to know him as well, but I don't think either of them of us knew him all that well. I'd met him like once before in person, and I think that was your first time meeting him.
Yeah.
And you and I just happened to be chatting there. And then again, we met 3 months later at Seller Summit last year. And then you've made huge strides in your business since. So before you were doing six figures a month on Amazon and basically, or not basically, you left your job. So before all that happened, what got you into all this?
I mean, I guess the story itself. We moved from New Jersey a couple of years ago, like 2.5 years ago. Just decided we needed a change. Look for like a better life for the kids and for the family. So we moved to Florida. I was working a full-time job. I was lucky enough to kind of keep working for the same company remotely. I was working for a software company. I was a support engineer. So we moved. My wife kind of lost her job. I got to keep mine, luckily. And I was looking for just some, as they call it, the side hustle,
Mm-hmm.
just something to do on the side. A friend of mine actually kind of sent me some information on, oh, by the way, check out this video. I think it was a Greg Mercer, one of those like the case study, like the Jungle
Oh, from Jungle Scout?
6 or
Uh-huh.
whatever. Yeah. So I started following that. It looked like an interesting idea. And I kind of thought of Amazon for a while. Like I did some retail arbitrage back in the days with eBay. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
really go too far, but I've made some, couple bucks here and there. But I also kind of thought about Amazon as a cool platform just because it's obviously has the reach. Uh, and the fact that like the whole FBA where you can just send items into and let Amazon handle the rest of it. So it felt like it could be automated to be hands off for the most part, and just it was very scalable. So I got that video. I started following the videos. It's kind of through those videos I also found out about Scott Volker, which then became one of my main mentors. And it's just one thing led to another. I started researching products. I was kind of following the, Greg's Mercer video and kind
Mm-hmm.
of the steps. And I was researching products. I found a few products that I was thinking of maybe sourcing. Then I found one that I was almost ready to commit to. Then we had
Mm-hmm.
to leave for a family trip to New Jersey, and that kind of, I guess, threw things off. So when I came back, I guess I was kind of off balance. I was looking now things differently. And I was trying to figure out why this would not work, which I guess is quite common as what we do. We just try to stay in the comfort zone. and just find reasons why we shouldn't do what we want to do, or what would take us to the next step. So I was looking, I was finding all those reasons in my head, like why this would not work, would not be a good idea, like how it could fail, right? And then luckily my mom actually sent me an invite. Somehow she got an invite to an Amazon meetup locally in my area. She was selling on eBay, so maybe somehow it cross-linked. I'm like, okay, well, let me just check it out, right? So I just went to that meetup, and we all shared our stories. And at the end, like when I kind of shared mine, I was almost at the point of I was ready to make that order, but I wasn't sure anymore. Maybe I should keep looking for a different product that looks better, right? And I got an advice, which up until now I think is like the best advice I got so far in this process, or this journey of mine. The meetup organizer, which we're still good friends with, and another person that was there, they both said, okay, just don't overthink it, just do it. Make the order, start, right? Just as Scott says, take action.
Right.
And I'm so glad they told me, they gave me that advice, because, like once I took the step, and I took action, and it all just built from there. It was a lot of small steps, one at a time, but that was the start. I finally committed. Once you commit, things start happening, right? And it's like, the future is all the probability until you actually make a decision, and then it becomes real. So I felt it like that was like the pivotal moment for me. So I went home, and I just kind of finished up the whole negotiation part, placed the first order. I think it was March 22nd in 2017 when I placed the first order, and I think we met probably around March 20th the next year. So I think it was. Okay. I think you're right. It was March, because I think like it was just 1 year since I placed my first order, and that was when we first met.
So you placed your first order in early 2017, almost a year to the date, 11 to 12 months ish from when you and I first met. So at that point, you were about a year into it. So, so just to unpack some of the story you were telling there. So you had some doubts that creeped into your head.
Oh yeah.
And someone just kind of gave you that nudge of saying, all right, go ahead and do it. So just even getting started. So I think a lot of people, it's good to hear that, regardless of where someone is on their journey, the doubt part is doesn't necessarily, or everyone's gone through that, at least at the beginning. Do you still get the doubts and the fears nowadays?
Oh yeah. It's basically, it's a daily part of my life now. I just learned to recognize when it comes in, and I learned to push through this. So one of the main things that I feel like I've learned through this process is really how to kind of work through my own insecurities and my own limiting beliefs and my doubts. I took many risks, but by doing so, I've learned that it's not as scary as your mind may paint it to be, right?
Okay.
So it's a constant work on yourself just to get through. And actually, it's funny because we met officially last year in March, and then later I found out that you were on Scott's podcast a couple times before that.
Yes, as a guest, that was on Scott's podcast.
Yes, and I've been, up until then, I've been like an avid listener to Scott's podcast. Like every day, I would like go ride my bike, and like for an hour, I would just listen to his podcast. And this is how like I learn, I basically learn about Amazon and how to do things. But also, it gave me like that little boost of motivation just to take action, just go do something, right?
Yeah.
So I would just come home and I would just like do something. Like I didn't feel like I had to do like a lot just to move forward, right? I would just, as long as I can come home after my full day work and I do at least one thing, right? I work for at least 40 minutes, whatever it is, right? But just do something. I felt like I moved one step closer. I think you said that, a while back that, 1,000 miles journey begins with one step. And that's kind of what I was doing, the first year or so. With my full-time job and having family and 2 small kids, I had my hands full, right? But I would just find time, like even 1 hour once the kids go to sleep, between 9 and 10 p.m., I would just kind of go in and just do something, right? But it had to like be daily. Every day I would have to do it, just to make it a habit, because this was my commitment. So anyway, to kind of go back to what I was trying to say. So as I was listening to Scott's podcast, one of the episodes like really kind of struck home, right? Like and he had a guest on, and like his story felt really kind of close to, in a way, to my story. And it's just like the view on certain things, and the view on life, and just the way that person was basically talking about his own challenges, and I guess you call them trash at the time,
Okay.
and how he dealt with those things while moving forward. I kind of could really resonate with that message, right? So that episode really kind of stuck with me, and then I met you in March, and then a couple of months later, I actually realized, or I found out, that you were that person on Scott's podcast. I'm like, oh, this is actually cool. I got to meet you. We kind of clicked, right? We talked
Yeah.
for a while, but we didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that you were the person that, back in the day, like a year ago, whatever, that you were on Scott's podcast, and it's funny because we can talk about those things, but there's a bunch of kind of things, intersections with our stories that happen since then, which I think are pretty cool. And I always felt like you were, or I'm that kind of in your shoes, just like a little bit behind. Like your story was unfolding just before mine, and I was kind of just following. And very similar things were happening. Like you quit your job, what, November?
December of last year, December 2000.
December of 2018, right? And I quit mine April of 2019. Actually, part of it is probably, thanks to you, because you kind of pushed me to do it. We had that phone conversation, and you kind of went over, like, hey, just do it. Because I kept thinking about it for a while. There was no reason anymore that I shouldn't do it, except in my head, I still needed that safety net, right? You always feel like, what if, and your brain tries to pull you back. Well, this is your comfort zone. Don't venture out. But you pushed me. I'm glad I took that step.
So what's interesting here, and thank you for saying that. That's funny that you brought up that story of how that one episode. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes and to that particular episode. But in everything you're saying, I'm hearing this common thread weaved in there of mindset.
Yes.
So do you think that it was more a particular tactic or something that you did, or was it more a particular way of thinking or mindset that got you to this point where, let's just be honest, dude, like to be able to leave your job within a couple of years of doing this and having 6 figures per month, 7-figure per year business is pretty incredible. Like, I don't know that you give yourself enough credit for that, but what do you think it was? Was it more mindset or particular tactics?
I used to think that it's really about, what and the tactics, and I got to learn and realize through this that it's really not. And honestly, I can say there's two things that really kind of got me beyond the level that I was stuck at. And there's no secret formulas or things I've learned as far as, how to do things. It's really mindset, as simple as it may sound. It's the mindset. It's your, I guess, environment that you're in, and your brain will tend to normalize, right? And that's why you always want to hang out with people that are where you want to be, just so you kind of you get used to that lifestyle, and you kind of see how they do it. So it's mindset plus small consistent action. So I used to think that, if I have to do something, I have to kind of go in big. Like I have to take, weeks or months or whatever, just doing one thing until, I get to whatever the next step. And now I learned that it's a lot easier, at least mentally, to stay out of that overwhelmed mentality. All you got to do is just daily steps, daily, like that's why daily habits are so powerful, right? because every single time you do it, there's almost no change,
Hmm.
but they compound, and over time, and it doesn't even take that long, but like over time, you look back and like, wow, have I really gone that far? But you have to stop and look and realize that this actually has I've grown so much, or I've got so far without realizing it because I took consistent steps. So it's mindset, or sometimes what I kind of like to call it is this: I had to brainwash myself into yes, and I mean we're being brainwashed every day you know by our environment. It's
That's
just
true.
your brain getting used to what environment it's in and basically normalizing it, right?
Hmm.
So we being brainwashed by media or by friends or family, everybody we hang out with, and we tend to, I guess, take their values and their views on the world and make them ours,
Mm.
right? So if you want to change something about yourself, and I guess it's a big thing in personal development, is you try to get over the barrier, the mental barrier. You want to change how you think, how you look at things. You
Hmm.
have to start thinking as who you want to become, right? So it's almost like you kind of have to figure out, okay, who do I want to be? What do I want to get? And then from that point, I have to look back and say, okay, well, how would that person behave, or what the person would do? And almost like playing a role, like you start acting or thinking like that person. But then as you do it, often enough, your brain will actually get used to it, and you kind of start seeing that as normal, as the new reality.
Hmm.
Everything else kind of happens automatic. And I know I mean, it wasn't easy, and that's not what I'm trying to say. It was a lot of hard work, but because I've changed my mindset, I was able to go through it, or push through it, and push that resistance without being overwhelmed or giving up, which is what I would have done previously.
I think you so hit the nail on the head there. I was actually just the other day, I was talking to was invited to speak to a group of sellers in Miami. And afterwards, I was talking to a few of them, and one was just looking to get started. And he was basically asking me for like, what is like that shiny, you know, object, that one thing I need to do, the tactic that's going to get me ahead, and that kind of like a sprint to go after. Um, and I just kept drilling him on it. It's about mindset. And, he kept saying, well, I could be doing this and this. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Pick what it is you want to do. Because if you're not happy with what it is you're doing, you're going to sabotage it yourself. So I think you're hitting it so much on the head that, we have to, and I like your analogy there of brainwash ourselves, because, if you watch the Food Network all day long, you're going to just think in terms of the recipes they're showing and things like that. Or if you watch the news all day long, you have a certain, depending on the news station, you could have a very different view on the world. And if you watch HGTV, you're thinking about flipping houses and renovating stuff all day long. So if if you want to be in the environment, like, well, as a seller who can do this full time, the best thing to do is, to your point, surround yourself with other sellers that are where you want to be. And so um I think that's definitely one of the big things is, you know it's all about the mindset. So how do you now keep yourself motivated? So now you've given yourself that carrot of getting to a point of leaving your job, so now you've left your job. How do you keep yourself motivated now?
I mean, the motivation part is pretty much the same as I was like what I've been doing for the last 2 years, I guess, plus.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to a routine. And I think if you kind of try to follow most people that are we consider successful, they all have those routines. So either like the morning routines, or just like a lot of small habits that you develop throughout the day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm trying to like kind of explain it shortly without going too deep into like, but so for me, is my morning routines. I have to wake up early, kind of get into the mindset. I would listen to some podcast. Oh, I would go ride my bike every
Mhm.
morning. And what I was kind of doing my full-time job, work remotely, and I was kind of stuck all day in a little office, getting cabin fever. So that was my escape. Like every morning, I
Mm.
would just go on a bike and ride for an hour. It was my exercise. It was my getting my fresh air, also clearing my head, and I was getting a basically head start. And then while I was riding the bike, I could always listen to the podcast. So I can do two things at once, basically, get my exercise for the day and get my, knowledge and motivation, which in a podcast or audiobook, which I kind of go, switch between. I
Mhm.
look for both, like obviously some actionable knowledge, but also motivation, because I need that. Like
Mhm.
if I stop doing that for a few days, I feel like I sleep back into my old reality.
Mm.
So it's like just like almost like a daily drug I have to take to keep me going. So yeah, I mean it's just developing good habits, um, taking the time. It's just small steps, but doing them consistently, daily basis, and yeah, just building that mindset and going forward. Journaling, setting goals, meditating, just
Yeah.
trying different things, and to see what really kind of works best for me and gets me.
So now that you're a couple of years into this journey, and I'm sure Radu of 2 years ago would be looking up to Radu of today, um, even if it wasn't, you weren't looking at yourself. So if you could go back and give advice to yourself, um, once you were like, let's say 3 months into it, what would you like? You've made that first order and you've gotten a few sales. What advice would you give to yourself?
So for me, one of the main struggles was just kind of like the fear to take a bigger step.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I guess our like one of the main issues is just we were running out of stock, because I've kind of went into this e-commerce kind of arena more as on a trial basis. Like I wasn't fully committed, I guess.
Mm.
So it was something that, okay, let me try this. I mean, I obviously have a full-time job, but maybe I can kind of do something on the side. And I'll just, it was a small investment. Well, like, I mean, fairly small. Like the first order maybe was like $6,000 with between the goods and the shipping and everything. So we would sell out and we would order more stock, but I wasn't really investing more money into it. So I was trying to kind of build it upon whatever we've made so far, and it just wasn't sustainable. So like what I would have done different, I guess, if I could go back, I would just commit earlier. I would just make a decision. Okay, I'm going all in, uh, and just kind of take those major steps and not wait on the sidelines, and just kind of trying to figure out, like, or trying to find, like this thing that will tell me, okay, well, now it's the time to do it. It's just the earlier you do it, the better.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be no big sign saying, okay, well, now it's safe. Obviously, you want to be somewhat cautious, right? You don't just want to
Right.
jump into something, but don't be afraid to kind of take calculated risks, right? Just take a bigger step, make that decision. Don't be on the fence, and just move forward.
That is such a important thing that people don't realize is the value of just moving forward and just keep taking action, because oftentimes too much people are like they're so worried, and I am totally guilty of this a lot. My wife would be more than happy to share stories um, of sometimes it's almost like I'm paralyzed. I think I'm taking action, but I'm not. But then other times I beat myself up because I think I should be taking more action, but then I got to realize like I'm moving the ball forward every day and I'm getting there, and I'm not giving myself enough credit that, maybe day to day doesn't feel like a lot's going on, but from, a longer time period, there's definitely sizable difference in what's taking place. So one of the things I like that you talked about earlier was that, it was that normalizing it by finding other people. So I liked how you talked about, being on a bike in the morning. So that was a part of your routine, that you're forcing yourself to do this, to get out of the house and listen. Because, if you don't have people around you, you can find them by, listening to podcasts and YouTube videos and things of that nature. But, you still have to take action, and you took the action. What else have you found that's helpful to find other people? Because I know you've definitely found your niche of other people to chat with.
Yeah, man. It's so listening to the podcasts and riding my bike was like the first step for me. But obviously, to go to the next step, once I started going to local meetups,
Mm-hmm.
and then even more like once kind of I went to this first big meetup, which is where I met you, and then Scott, which at the time, like, I mean, it was the first time I met him, and like, to me, he was like probably the biggest mentor at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody like I've been following for like every day for like over a year, and now I get to meet him, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just a surreal, awesome experience. Uh, but yes, just to answer your question is get out of your head, just get out there, find people that are doing the same thing or trying to kind of go the same way as have the same goals, and just kind of hang out with them. I mean, you are the sum of five people that you hang out with, and I mean that's so true. So between local meetups and then just going to events, I mean, there's a bunch of like really good events that you can go to. So like if somebody's in like an e-commerce online seller, there is a seller summit, which is where we've met a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few other great events. Actually, there's an event coming up in September, and you know a few things about it. It's Brand Accelerator Live.
Yes, Brand
It's the
Accelerator Live, which anyone
yeah.
listening isn't aware of. I'm the planner with Scott Volker on that one. But yeah,
So
that's gonna be a good event.
that's a
Um,
good event. I mean, there's a few other good ones. Like I want to go to the CapCon, the Capitalist Conference by
mhm.
Ryan Daniel Moran. That's I think in December typically.
Oh, okay,
Is
capitalism.
somebody else I've
Yeah.
been following? Yes, but I mean, just find like even like in your area, find something that's happening in the next month or two nearby, and just go attend it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, people may think I'm crazy for saying this, but if you're a full-time employee at a job, there's value in just going to your local chamber of commerce and meeting people that are business owners. Even if they're, they own a plumbing company or brick and mortar or something or other, there's still a mindset of risk taking that they have to take every day that's not really that far off from what we do in e-commerce. Their mechanics may be completely different, and you're talking completely different languages when you're talking about how they market versus how we would market. But there's still, to your point, that mindset thing, that risk every day. I don't know what's going to happen in a month, you know? Um, and I think just being around that more is just so beneficial. Um, so yeah, that's all good advice, and I love the fact that in just about everything you're saying, there's a couple consistent things. Find other people that are like-minded. Keep taking action, even if it feels like it's not a huge amount. Like you didn't sacrifice your relationship with your family because you hid for a year or two. You still spent time with your family, and then when you weaved your business into when you had time. Um, and then you were still able to do your full-time job and build this. So I think that should give a lot of encouragement to people as well. And then just having that right mindset. And so, I think that there's so much to be said for, finding like-minded people that, if it has to start off with, it's just listening to people on the internet. That's one place to start, but then, eventually try to find people and ideally meet them face to face is so important. And when you can be almost surrounded or engulfed in that environment for a couple days because you're at a conference, I think that's a huge thing too. So,
Yes.
um, do you have any other? We'll close out here in just a moment, but do you have any other advice that you'd like to give to the listeners here?
Yeah, just like I mentioned earlier, you feel like you're kind of stuck, right? And you just kind of don't know what to do next, or just decide, right? Just choose a path and go towards it. Make a step. It may not be the right path, but you'll learn a lot, and in the process, you can pivot. You can, as long as you're moving, you haven't failed until you stop trying. And that's like the new philosophy that I'm kind of following, or believe in. But yeah, just take action, decide, take action. Don't get stuck in your own mind. It'll never be perfect, and as I guess the perfect is the enemy of done. So
Yes.
slow, actionable steps on a daily basis, the right mindset, and have a set goal in mind, like where you're actually trying to get to or trying to achieve, and just slowly move towards it.
Well, that's great feedback. And it really is just so much about mindset. We get too caught up in what's the latest tactic, what's the latest mechanics of what to do. But it really is just having the mindset strategy of just keep moving forward. And I think that's so important. And I'm so glad that you came on here and talked about that. We weren't really 100% sure when we started this conversation what direction we were going to go, but we made it all about mindset. And I think that's so important for people. And I think anyone listening to this, to hear that from a 6-figure per month, 7-figure per year seller, it's important that they have that sink in if they're looking to get up to that level, because that's a consistent phrase I hear from a lot of bigger sellers and successful people in all niches, that it's less about what you do and more about how you're thinking. So awesome. Thank you so much, Radu, for being on here today.
It was such a pleasure. And yeah, I mean, I still can't believe, like, how many things have changed, how far we've gotten since we met just over a year ago.
Yeah,
I would never have thought in a million years that I was, I'd be on your podcast one day, and it's just I would be where I am right now. And like, one more thing I wanted to add, which I wanted to kind of talk about, but I forgot, is as you move through this journey, and you mentioned that like you take small steps and you keep moving, but you don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a good idea to just kind of pause, just stop and look back and see where you are now and where you were just a few months ago, because there's always going to be growth. But we tend to kind of overlook that. We always kind of look at what's in front of us, and we never kind of give ourselves credit or realize how much we've done. So if we just stop and compare ourselves now to where we used to be, that would be so much better for your mindset, and for, I guess, for your happiness, for lack of a better word, than doing what we tend to do most times, is compare ourselves to somebody else.
Very good. It's the comparison, and that's a good distinction there. It's not just about engulfing yourself with the knowledge of other people and being around them, but you do want to be careful not to compare yourself too. So that's
because usually that game can never be won, and that's why so many people that are on the surface so successful are really not happy, very unhappy. And it's human nature. We tend to kind of compare ourselves to other people, but I think the more we can actually give ourselves credit and just stop and look back, the happier we're going to feel in the process.
very true. Very true. Well, thank you so much, Radu. You shared a lot of great knowledge here, and I really hope that everyone listening to this takes a little mindset check and really thinks about how they're thinking about their business and things of that nature moving forward. So awesome. Thank you so much, Radu.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.